Good evening and welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to Let's Talk program in K.O. Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. With regards to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, thank you all for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. You can also follow the live video stream of this program on our YouTube channel, Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe, and our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Tonight, we have two segments for the program. The first segment will be focusing on the pharmacists all across the globe, but in particular those in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. They are celebrating Pharmacy Week. We'll find out all about that. We'll also find out, in case you did not know, what pharmacists do and how they can help you. Now, as I said, we have two segments to the program. This will be the first segment, so if you have a question or comment early, you want to call, ask a question, maybe even if you just want to tell the pharmacist we appreciate what you do in terms of our health. And then the second segment will speak for itself. You stand by for that as well. So, Rohan Claxton is a pharmacist at the Evelyn's Drugstore. Rohan, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. So, we are celebrating Pharmacy Week, and we're also here to promote and to see if we can attract some young people to be a pharmacist.
Elijah Thompson is a medical doctor. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
It's good to have you.
It's good to be here.
And you operate where on St. Kitts?
I operate from Nevis at the Alexandra Hospital.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing you're here, because I didn't know that. You learn something every day. Well, at least I do. So it's good to have you. And Roshana Stanford, and you are a pharmacist.
Hi, good evening. My name is Roshana Stanford. I operate out of the Alexandra Hospital Pharmacy.
It's good to have you too. And the good thing about it is that you're very young folks, so we're in good hands. Okay. So, by the way, not Rohan, but the other two, first time you've been here?
Yes, it's my first time here.
Yes, my first time here.
That's good. You like it so far?
It's going well.
We'll see how it goes.
It will continue that way. Okay, so if I have a complaint, I could lodge it as we go along?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll try our best.
Okay, there you go. So we are celebrating Pharmacy Week.
Yes, sir.
We do it every year around this time.
Around this time.
And pharmacists, they are in the chain of
The healthcare system.
System, either preventative or maintaining. Okay, so Randy, as usual, it's good to have you. So let's start out with the Pharmacy Week.
Yes. The St. Kitts Nevis Association of Pharmacists usually celebrates Pharmacy Week in the month of October. It usually falls after World Pharmacy Day, which usually is celebrated on the 25th of September. And we usually do activities. We link up with each other. We try to get some more continuing education done. And our theme this year, Pharmacy, the team, your ally and guide for safe and effective medication use. So basically, we serve a purpose in the community and in the healthcare system. So on Sunday 19th, we in Nevis, we worship at the Shiloh Baptist Church. I'd like to thank Pastor Maynard for having us. And then last evening in Singis, we had a CE session with one of the doctors there. And now tonight we are here doing Let's Talk to promote the profession. And then later down this week, we're going to be having a meet and greet session in Nevis. The pharmacist from St. Kitts coming over to link with us. And we're going to meet up and basically mingle, mix and mingle.
Yes, well, let's get an opening comment. Doc, you tell us, what you do at the Alexandra Hospital and stuff like that,
No problem. I'm an emergency physician. I work in the emergency room or the outpatient department, where I function as a doctor. I write, diagnose, I treat, and I, from time to time, do follow up. Basically, why am I here is because I'm going to talk about pharmacy from the point of a doctor. Why it's important to know what the role of a pharmacist and their actions and how can they improve the quality of health that we give out. So that's part of the reason why I'm here, to give like a point of view and importance that the public have to know why we as doctor and what's the point and role of the pharmacist in the treatment team, to incorporate them as part of the treatment team when it comes to giving a higher quality of care to the patients.
Okay, so here's how I would like to do it, right? You said you're here to let people know how to talk about this. Why don't we do that first, so that at the end of the day, we don't forget to give certain information which you wanted to give. And then I already have a couple of questions I'm going to ask, stuff like I want to know and what I think that my audience would like to know as well. And I'm encouraging you out there, if you think about something, you can call in and ask or make a comment as well. So so how about we do it that way? Okay.
Whichever way you feel comfortable.
So let's do it that way. You let us know what you'd like to impart to the public. Right? And having done that, then I can now bring forth the questions that I have in the comment, and then we get into the full discussion.
Okay, Webbo, let me start the ball rolling. You want to say thanks to the trailblazers in the pharmacy profession. I would like to recognize the late Arthur Evelyn, who establishes the first pharmacy in Nevis since 1957, and that pharmacy is still going today. And then we seek to recognize the late Hugh Claxton, who also opened his own pharmacy in 1982. Special recognition to Laston Nisbet, Joe Claxton, Isilma Grant, Miss Wells, who worked at the hospital, and then Mr. Aaron Perkins and Mr. Donald Hanley. And those are our stalwarts in the pharmacy profession in Nevis. And of late, we have drawn expertise from outside of Nevis. I guess due to the fact that we don't have many students interested in the pharmacy profession. So we are part of tonight again is to promote the profession, and it is a lovely career. It's a noble profession. You can work until you're almost 80. Nobody could throw you away, because your knowledge as a pharmacist is very, very, very important in the healthcare system. So we don't count tablets. We offer a wide range of services. We have to educate the public in order to keep their life healthy. And it's not just drugs alone. There's a balance between diet, rest, and you taking your medication on time. So our duty is basically to encourage patient compliance in taking your meds on time. we also ensure that the right directions are being instructed to the patient. The doctor writes the script, we interpret the script, and then we pass on the method of taking the medication in the correct manner, in layman terms. Recently, it is being seen that persons are self-diagnosing themselves from the internet. Sometimes they just come in and ask for some drugs that you never seen or heard before, but the moment they mention them, we go and we research, because it's our job to educate them on the safety of taking medication. So, also, I'd like to add that the theme basically speaks for itself. We are your ally, and we are the guide for safe and effective medication use. So we're going to speak around the theme tonight and the importance. Patient compliance, the link between the doctor and the pharmacist to ensure that you take the medication the right way. Some drugs may be dangerous. If you don't take them properly, something would all happen. Drug interactions, drug-food interaction, drug-drug interactions. So, as the pharmacist, we seek to guide the patient, right, to take the medication on time. You know, sometimes you experience patients come in and say, oh, me pan this drug from since 2010, doctor said take it. But the question is, when was your last doctor's visit? On most scripts, the doctors would say the number of repeats a prescription is written. But after that, some persons may not want to go back to the doctor. So they feel that the medication is working all the time. But it is important to have a checkup. You can't just say, I'm on this medication since 20 not. I mean, I gotta go doctor too expensive and this and the terror. Right, Doc?
Of course. We could go
So
into
the importance of seeing your doctor at least twice a year, 3 times a year, you know, just to ensure that the drug is working, and you know, you make sure you're healthy.
Yeah, we could go into well, I could add 1 or 2 information on that, especially when it comes to the importance of the pharmacist, because there are medication that you don't need a prescription to take. For example, these cough medicines. If you're hypertensive or have high blood pressure, there's certain cough medicine when you have the flu that you're not supposed to take. That the pharmacist is, at that moment, is one of the most important person to tell you, nope, you're hypertensive, you shouldn't take this medication. And also what Mr. Clarkson was saying before about the keeping up of doing the follow-up, because there's certain medication, especially when you're diagnosed with diabetes. Let's say you're on metformin. You could take metformin, you can take metformin. As soon as your kidneys start failing to a certain levels, you cannot be taking metformin that much longer. So, and there's certain medication, if you're hypertensive, lisinopril, if your kidneys fail, you cannot take lisinopril. They could damage your kidney. So that's very important. That's one of the medication that they that's very much prescribed, very frequently prescribed, lisinopril. If something's wrong with your kidneys, it protects your kidneys before they get damaged. When they're damaged, it's damaged them worse. So we have to be very careful. That's the importance of doing those follow-up, doing those tests. If you're diabetic, depends on the doctor if it's controlled or not. Every 3 months or 6 to 6 months, and you got to keep up just to check on your kidneys, your livers, the medication, how they're working, and yeah, that's the importance. Pharmacy, you can't do without. We work together. There are some medications that interact with each other, even on the prescription, that they see, that the doctors sometimes may not see interaction between the medication. They might catch up and they might give us a call and say, yo, this and that medication might be not the best for the patient. So, as I said, it's better the quality, the care, the overall care for the patient at the end of the day.
I'd like to add that, you know, our team is your ally and your guide for safe and effective medication use, and some people might be at home thinking that I could just put the name of my medication into Google and Google the side effects and Google and see what might go wrong. But where a pharmacist steps in, and like in reference to what Dr. Thompson was saying, is that it provides personalized care. So when your doctor works with your pharmacist to review your medications, it's a process that we call in the pharmacy world a medication review and a medication reconciliation, where your doctor diagnoses, your pharmacist looks at the list of medications that you've been on, and like he was mentioning, whether you've been on it since 20 for like 10, 15 years, your pharmacist comes in and reviews your medication, reviews your lab, and goes to your doctor, has a conversation with your doctor, and then makes a decision that is right for you. People might think that this could be accomplished with ChatGPT, but remember, ChatGPT does not have access to your doctor that took your history and access to your labs. So that's where a pharmacist is. So I was saying to somebody recently that when a pharmacist is not present, you see the gaps, and when a pharmacist is present, healthcare is a very seamless process. And that is what we mean. That's how we work with doctors, and that's the importance of our profession.
Okay. We're talking about medication. About 2 weeks ago, we were here talking about health. But we had some persons here. We had a doctor here. They in the health profession as well. But they do more natural medicines, and it was very interesting.
Yes.
Now, one of the things when we were talking about these natural medicines, one of the natural questions that come up is, what's the dosage?
Exactly.
Now, in this aspect that we are talking about, this aspect of the medical profession, and
conventional medicine.
Conventional, yes. We know what the dosage is,
Yes.
based on science and research and all that.
Everything's tested.
But the question I want to ask is, at this juncture, is what are, I know it perhaps can be different things, but generally speaking, what are those medications made of?
Well, part of this study for becoming a pharmacist is a segment in your study called pharmacognosy, which deals with taking those same herbal stuff, study it, certain concentration, and the results to make sure it is safe to be taken. Alright? Sometimes you hear persons come in and say, oh, me gonna drink some lemongrass and some Corella bush, courage, all those things to help treat themselves at home, right? So that's the herbal way, that's the traditional way. But during the studies, each plant, I'm sure some persons is not aware that insulin basically comes from a pig pancreas. The very lipstick you wear comes from the animal hoof, a cow hoof. You know, so everything is studied. It's manufactured based on their potency and the level of safety. Then it's being passed on for persons for use. So the conventional medicine, yes, came from the traditional medicine, and it is tested, research tested, all the trials are being done to make sure that it is safe for consumption. And again, you take your medication, it is said it is risk to benefit. Risk to benefit. So when you take your medication, you know it's risk to benefit. The doctors know that when you take ibuprofen, they prescribe it for a certain period of time, 5 days, 7 days, because they know the end game is to give you relief, right? we as pharmacists now will tell you to take that same ibuprofen after meals, because we know one of the side effects, if you take ibuprofen for a long time after, without taking any medication, you can eventually get stomach ulcers. So the safety part, exactly this is how it is. We are the guardians in the healthcare system. We are the guardians to the patient, between the doctor and the patient. We are the safety net. So that is our job, that is our duty. It's not just counting tablets. We do patient counseling. Sometimes we do over-the-counter counseling for those persons who are poor and they would say that they can't afford to go to the doctor. We are trained also to do over-the-counter prescribe for simple things. But again, we as pharmacists again would ask you the same doctor questions. We're going to ask you what you have taken before. We don't want to make sure no drug reaction, you take something before. And depends on the symptoms, the signs and symptoms that person presents. If it is too severe, too far gone, then we would recommend to see the doctor. Again, we have little training in ensuring that, you know, some persons are asked to have their pressure checked, you know, and we offer that service. We are trained to do that, and the moment we cite these pressure is abnormal, out of range, we recommend you see a doctor. So basically we play the safety net in this case in the healthcare system. Even though the profession is overlooked, we are trying to promote the young people to be pharmacists. We do need pharmacists in Nevis. I mean, the place is generating, it's growing, development is happening, and we do need pharmacists.
Always feel free to jump in, you know.
Well, you know, you have the different levels of pharmacy. You have the community pharmacists, the primary level, then we have the hospital pharmacy. So certain drugs we have at the primary level in the community pharmacy, and then Ms. Roshana would explain the type of medication that the hospital will take. That's a different level of healthcare.
Okay, so community pharmacy is where preventative pharmacy is practiced. And like Ms. Clarkson was saying, we would ask similar questions to what the doctor would ask, because your doctor takes a medical history, family history, what diagnoses have been existing in your family chain, and we would ask a medicine's history, right, to make sure that what you're using doesn't interact with what you'll take now. Now back to the point. So community pharmacy is preventative pharmacy, and it's easier to build a nice relationship with your community pharmacist. Hospital pharmacy is a bit more maintenance management, and they specialty drugs, so specialty medications. So medications that you would see at the hospital level would be for patients that are on that are using medications for a bit longer. Community pharmacists would deal with, there's a slight infection, a patient gets a prescription for antibiotics or some pain management, and they're fine, and in that condition clears up. At the hospital level, you will see people with more chronic management happening, people with more inpatient, more, for lack of a better term, serious conditions that need to be monitored more closely by the doctor, and you would see more injections, injectables, and so on available at the hospital pharmacy.
Now, from the community pharmacy level, it has been observed that some persons tend to abuse certain drugs, and sometimes they don't care, They insist you give them the drugs because they want to use it. So one of our roles is to basically warn persons of certain medications. Some people want to take antibiotics. What are you taking antibiotics for? Me, no, me to hurt me. Can I suggest you use a gel or something to ease the pain, or take some paracetamol? No, I want antibiotics. Now, recently, the Ministry of Health in St. Kitts has basically identified the abuse of antibiotics by persons that when they reach to the hospital in a severe detrimental point, the medication ain't working because you already saturated your body with antibiotics. And then we have to go back to the first generation medication like tetracycline that is nearly off the market, very expensive, and to treat that person because they already took too much antibiotics. And knowing me, I'm not going to sell nobody antibiotics unless I see a prescription.
Can I add here that pharmacists have been villainized for that same purpose? We are the guardians of the drug, of the medication.
Yes.
We prevent anybody from abusing any type of medication, and you're villainized because some people feel it has to do with how people think about medications in general, because people think that antibiotics are a quick fix and they can cure almost anything. And I think the potency of antibiotics over the years have been very good at doing what they were designed to do. So people think that, this is the strongest antibiotic and they want a strong one because the pain is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with the way we think about medicine use as people. I'm saying we because, pharmacists included. And it has to do with changing the perspective of the public as it relates to, and that can only safely be done through education. So a lot of people, that is another role of the pharmacist in educating the patient, the public, the professionals as to how positions on medications change, how the use of antibiotics needs to be guarded a little bit more because frankly we're running out of them. Nobody is, because they work so well, nobody is investing money to go research
the cost
more.
Of production.
Right, the cost of production is really high.
Yes.
And in order to protect a patient, sometimes you might have to tell them no and respect the process, go get a prescription, let your doctor inspect you.
Some persons should see a pharmacist as their friend.
True.
Right? But if I'm your friend and you come tell me I want this, I'm going to tell you no, because I'm safeguarding your
So
status.
that's what I'm saying. People think that their friends aren't meant to tell them no. So that in and of itself is the issue here.
So generally speaking, why would persons go to the pharmacist to get the medication to treat themselves?
Well, I could give you an example of this. For example, if somebody comes in with a flu, well, not really a flu, but let's say a cough that they interpret that might be a flu, they may go to the pharmacist and say, I want something for the cough or something for the flu. He might have a chest infection, not knowing that the chest infection can be caused by a virus also, or bacteria, but most of them just think, first thing, coughing, because they went to the doctor, they've been diagnosed with something similar before, they see the similar symptoms, so they go and trying to get the similar treatment, which is the antibiotics, which, as they said, might cause the patient to develop an antibiotic resistance, because if you keep getting this medication so frequently over and over again, your body's going to get accustomed to it. And then when it comes to you actually being sick with that chest infection, which is bacterial, because it's bacterial now, it is not as effective. And you might need more, and those antibiotics are expected, so there's a socioeconomic cost to that also. So, and then there's more things. For example, in chest infections, flu is one of the most frequent examples of the abuse of these antibiotics. And then I would say UTIs that are caused to, because you've seen all these UTIs because people have been getting UTIs frequently, and
not everybody understands the abbreviation.
Sorry, I mean UTI, urinary tract infection.
Okay.
Okay, that's like when you it's not can I say as cause is not sexual. Because the symptoms, for example, when you pee, it burns the bladder of your bladder, maybe infection of the bladder, say it like that. And when you have symptoms like when you pee, it burns, or you might have certain discharges. So yeah, and because of your body's been so accustomed to certain antibiotics, the infection, the bacteria in the bladder is resistant to a good amount of antibiotics, and that's gonna
Okay, let's spend a little more, another minute on that.
Go ahead.
Because that's a normal thing that scares people away from a doctor, and sometimes a pharmacist. So I think it's important to spend time on it, and it may help. So because every time a person has that problem, or often when a person has that problem you just mentioned, I have a burning sensation when I pee. You begin to think, as you said, STD is on the way. So you get scared, right? And you don't go to the doctor because you don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
That's true.
So, when symptoms start, and it's like the first day you notice something abnormal about your normal bodily functions, it's safe to go to a pharmacist, because your pharmacist would tell you, okay, you can use this for symptomatic relief and observe. But then your pharmacist will also tell you, based on how long the symptoms have been going on for, listen, you need to see a doctor. Listen, okay, you've seen a doctor, you've had this thing is coming back, you need to see a doctor again, or you need to ask your doctor if you need to see a specialist. All right, so that's how the chain of healthcare works, and if that chain is broken down, then is when the patient has complications and might, develop a fear of just going straight to the doctor.
It is a common knowledge that most men, and I'm now learning a lot of women, so persons in general, have almost a phobia or sometimes scared.
The white coat.
Yes, to go to a doctor. We don't, for whatever reason or reasons, we don't pay as serious attention to our health as we should. Claxton, you had mentioned earlier that it is wise for persons to have a checkup once, twice, maybe even 3 times a year.
Yes.
And some persons wouldn't mind doing that, but it is because, again, this fear. Now, having heard Doc just a while ago, for instance, make the point, and I bet you, if I know my audience well enough, some people are going to say that they learned that last night, that not every little issue you have is an STD.
Yeah.
And that in itself gives people some relief.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things, though, that, Doc, you might have experienced that people are very scared of, but are sort of normal bodily functions?
Okay, well, normally body functions.
When I say normal bodily
Explain
functions, what I mean is that because you're alive, certain things will happen. Like one time my doc told me, what's wrong with you? You're living, you must have some issues.
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So there are things that, are common. One of them that most of us are accustomed to, you just mentioned, is a flu or common cold. But there are other things that, for instance, last week or two when we were talking about the natural medicines and stuff like that, we learned that a lot of folks are vitamin deficient.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a couple of deficiency that's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
common.
Yeah, right.
go into that another.
But let's go into it, because a lot of persons didn't know that.
Yeah, for example.
And yes, go ahead.
For example, if you sit in an office and you don't get enough sunlight, most likely you're vitamin D deficient. So they recommend you take certain supplements for certain things: magnesium, zinc, and vitamin D are some of the most common deficiencies out there. But on the sense of bodily issues or functionalities, I would like to say one of the biggest problems that we have right now is, especially I've been seeing in the younger population, is high blood pressure. That's one of the big ones, them, especially the men them that they like to not go to the doctors, and they know that they have a family history. Both parents or one parents have suffer from bad high blood pressure, and there are certain people that use natural medicine. We could link back that into natural medicine also with the garlic pills. Them, as I said, I'd have no problem with. I've said this before. I have no problem with natural medicine, but we have to treat it like medicine. You have to be studied, because garlic is good for before you're hypertensive, to start to use it and start to get exercise on these things. Before that, when you're hypertensive or bad hypertensive, garlic that's not gonna work for you. That's when you need that 2-1-2. Go to the doctor, pressure, exercise, non-pharmacological treatment with the pharmacological team, and get the team and everybody together. Get the exercise in to lose some weight. Do certain different types of exercise. You might need a trainer along with that, a dietitian, a trainer, the pharmacies, the doctor, the whole team, just to actually try and get that pressure under control. Because just because you're on 3 medication doesn't mean you can be on 2. Doesn't mean you can go from 2 to 1. Doesn't mean you can go from 1 to almost come off of pressure medication. But you're gonna have to put in the effort to actually get it done. And if you have been diagnosed with high blood pressure from since your 20s, not taking any medication, which usually is the case, you're gonna be suffering from heart failure in about let's say 5 to 10 years. Get heart failure, you're going to be on 5 medication, and if you didn't take the 2 medication in the first place, you're not going to take no 5 medication. And that ruins your quality of life, you know? You can't breathe. There's a lot of things that can go on. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to expand a little.
No problem.
Because you had mentioned that one of the things that you found is happening is the high blood pressure in the young persons, especially men.
Yes.
Especially men.
Okay.
Well, when I say especially men, when it comes to trying to control the pressure,
Control.
they'll be on the pills. They'll be on, let's say, 1 or 2 pills, and then I typically see them come off, and then in the 40s they have a lot of complications.
Okay, with that same condition, especially the men, and of course including the women, everybody, but especially men, is there a link between all the mix-up things that they drink?
Can I enter here? I am very passionate about high blood pressure in young men, because this is where your pharmacist steps in. A lot of times, there was one study I encountered at a time where men of color, black men, are more likely, because most black men are of a bigger build, their normal blood pressure is above the normal of protocols, right? Now that's fine. That most doctors are very good at picking that up. And the other part of it, as a pharmacist, what I've seen is that, and this is why you need your pharmacist as your ally to safe and effective medicine use, because a lot of young men get prescribed medication, hypertensive medication, that affect their other functions as young men, and they stop it because it's interrupting their quality of life. And you cannot, as a pharmacist, get them to restart it if they are having, dysfunctions elsewhere. So I think that's where, and I could share an anecdote, because I have had permission in the past from the patient to share this. A young man, he was on some antihypertensive medication, and he found that it was giving him some side effects that was interrupting his love life. And he was he had his team around him, let me tell you. He had his team around him. I was one of his pharmacists. He had another one in hospital, and he had his doctor. And I think it took him a year of I think he parked his car and he walked to work, and he got his exercise in, and he started exercising, and his doctor had to bring down his dosage. So I think, to Dr. Thompson's point, I think the problem with young men managing their hypertension is that sometimes they're on a medication that is causing side effects that are more troubling to them than the actual hypertension, if you understand my meaning. And they don't know what to do, so they prefer to have a high blood pressure than to have dysfunction in that part of their life. So I think that's where your pharmacist comes in. If you find, and that's where we need to educate patients as to how to spot certain side effects of certain medication, so that we don't, quote unquote, throw out the baby with the bathwater. We don't throw out the use of the drug just so that we could have, just so we can get rid of a side effect. We could probably switch the drug, have a conversation with your doctor, like Doc was saying, bring in your whole healthcare team. And sometimes it takes hard work. It takes a trainer, it takes a dietitian, but you can eventually reduce your dose. And for especially hypertension in young men, when they're newly diagnosed, they can come off of, I've seen it, where these young men have come off of medication, and it's just that they have to keep exercising, they have to keep eating right, and so on. So it becomes a different kind of maintenance. But your doctor isn't outside of that process, and your pharmacist isn't outside of that process either. Right? So that's where we function as pharmacists. And I don't want the idea that we just
Count pills.
Count pills, but I don't want the idea that we just trying to make people take pills
Right.
out there in the society.
As I said, we are the guardians of medication to the patient. Over the years, we've been realizing that persons are addicted to Voltaren, they're addicted to the emergency pill, they're addicted to codeine, cough syrup. Some time ago we had an issue where the school children used to just walk in the supermarkets and the pharmacies and buy Tuscasset Linctus and codeine Linctus because they're looking for the euphoric effect. And as a result of that, I started putting it in the back of the pharmacy and not on the shelf, because certain drugs you can get addicted to it. The abuse of certain drugs might hamper you down the line in life. Some ladies might think that doing this emergency thing every week is not right. Then later down in life, when you're ready to have someone, an offspring, it affects you. So that's we can identify it as substance abuse. Some person might say they can't sleep. They want some Valium. They want some Lorazepam. In a way, you try to sympathize with them, but you try to work with them in a way that you give them an over-the-counter product that would help them to relax and sleep. Melatonin, some salpamito, anything that helps to relax the body, ashwagandha, those herbal stuff. They are tested and tried and true. It works. But then when you reach to the point that the doctor realizes you're hypertensive and not sleeping at night, then you get a psychotropic drug to help to relax you for a few days, not to be on it for a month, a year. We are the guardians between the doctor. We are part of the health team. We're here to make sure you are getting your medication safe, you are taking it safe. Sometimes persons go to the doctor, bring back a prescription, and turn and ask the pharmacist, what is ever? What that ever? You went to the doctor for a complication. The doctor issued you a prescription to help you. Right? And then we must have a part of our code of ethics a patient, we have to respect the patient's privacy. So if that patient send the son, the child, or the grand to pick up this medication, I would not disclose what this medication is for because it's none of their business. There's that connection between the patient and the pharmacist, that there's a right to privacy. Right? Now that is why we, again, part of the code of ethics, are not to dispense any medication to a child. The parent must come and collect their own medication. We are the guardians, again, in the healthcare system. We are not popularized as pharmacists. They don't see it, at career fairs. I don't know. I don't think I ever be invited to.
This year.
You went this year?
Hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, I went, but again, it wasn't something that the children were very excited about, but we're getting there.
Right. So our first step tonight is to let some young person out there to think about becoming a pharmacist. It's a noble profession. Your job is very important in the healthcare system. So if you're out there and you're listening to us, let's think about it. All you need is English, maths, physics, chemistry, and biology. Right. 5 subjects. Just to get you in college. Just to get you to be part of the healthcare system. Alright? So throughout the Caribbean we have universities of Guyana, Trinidad UWI. In Barbados is either Cave Hill or you go to the Barbados College. St. Vincent has a pharmacy program. Dominica has a very good pharmacy program. You go to Jamaica. And then in Antigua recently, UWI, University of West Indies, started doing the pharmacy program there also. So I'm encouraging the youths of today. Think about becoming part of this noble profession. Trust me, it's you show how you're kind-hearted, you care about persons, but at the same time you still have to be stern to make sure persons take the medication. I sympathize with my mother. She was wondering why she have to take 7 tablets. Why she have to take all these tablets? No. But I'm sure she will tell you that she was able to survive until she was 85 by taking those same medications. And being there, ensuring that she takes them, I was happy to know that I was a pharmacist. My dad was a pharmacist. And to that point, I learned to care for people. You sympathize with them, yes. But on the other side, the flip side, I'm going to be stern and make sure that you follow the guidelines of the doctor.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Right. So I wanted to, we don't have a lot of time in this segment left, but I wanted to point out and elaborate a little bit on when I asked a question earlier what traditional medication is made of, to make the point again that some of it, maybe not all, the basis of them are some of the natural medicines that we use.
Yes.
Let's take marijuana for instance.
Mm-hmm.
There's an argument that it has certain properties which are medically helpful.
Yes.
But I don't know whether or not there are some medication, traditional medication, to use that term, that part of its ingredients is marijuana. I don't know. But I'm just trying to make the point that notwithstanding it has medical properties, if it is used indiscriminately, just because it has medical properties, it can be harmful.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So, to the point of the marijuana, so marijuana is the plant. You got sativa, you got indica, different strains. But, and Rohan will concur on this, in your course of study as a pharmacist, you do many medicine manufacturing, and you do what's called extemporaneous preparations. So you go into the formal production of conventional medicines, and you're also taught a little bit how to make your own medication. Now, the active part of marijuana that is therapeutic is a chemical abbreviated to the letter in THC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, yes, marijuana has medicinal properties, but if you light it on fire, it has carcinogenic properties. So it all depends on how you extract from leaf, stem, or root the drug that is horrible, right? So you would get different preparations of different plants. You would get different potency of the natural product in it. So I think that's what needs to be reiterated to the public. For instance, like Dr. Thompson was mentioning about the preventative qualities of garlic in hypertension. Some people think that they should eat garlic until they smell like garlic in order to get the benefits. But I can tell you for certain that the way that you prepare garlic, to extract garlic oil to reduce your high blood pressure, and it also has effects on your high cholesterol, it's a very long process. So I think that when we, and that is I think the basis of the gripe that the doctors have with the use of herbal products, is that people can tell you that a whole plant is good for something. Or sometimes somebody offered me advice the other day on a natural product, and I said, "What?" They said, "You should use it. It's good." I said, "Good for what?" Because when you do, like Mr. Clarkson was saying, when you do pharmacognosy, and you have to memorize how many, the list of conditions that one plant can treat, is a very tedious process. And you have to know whether you extract it with alcohol, whether you extract it with oil, whether you boil it, right? So different extractive processes give you a different potency from an herbal product. And that is the reason, even though herbal products are good, it always calls into question, how are you preparing it, and what potency did you test the potency of the chemical that you extracted? How many times a day are you using it, right? So as good as marijuana is, we have to break it down to preparation, use, and it still has any plant, any herbal product, like any conventionally prepared drug, has the potential to be abused. It has, well, in the conventional medicine we call it off-label use. In herbal medicine you call it, it's still a use, but it depends on what percentage of the plant, on which part of the plant. Also, I think people need to recognize that it depends on what type of soil the plant grows in and what type of day you pick the plant, because of photosensitivity of the chemical in the leaf or the stem. It breaks down to different potencies as you go on. So that's the point in the use of natural products.
Just to add to what my colleague is saying, you asked about the marijuana. Studies have been going on. Depends on the variety and the strain of the plant.
It depends on
the conditions in which it is grown.
Yes.
And it's being legalized now. Cannabis is being legalized to the point that they have produced them at a level that it is safe to take. Yes. And I mean, I might say that you can get hemp in a toothpaste. It's available as a mouthwash. It's available as shampoo and conditioner.
Yes, it's popular in the Canadian setting for use in nausea in cancer patients. It does very well, but like again, my point is depends on your preparation. You can't set the thing on fire and say that you're using it for glaucoma. And so
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
so it
And
depends
as
on
you
the
said,
preparation.
the smoke is carcinogenic.
It cancer causing, puts you at a risk of getting cancer. So you could be doing it to treat one thing and create another problem, which again is the same issue that we confront in conventional medicine. You might taking a drug for 5 years, and your doctor got add in something else because the side effect has cropped up.
Just one more topic we want to speak upon is generic versus the brand.
Yep.
All right. Now, as a pharmacist, you try to explain to the patient that they are both the same. They're very effective. The generic is just as effective as the brand. The brand is just an idea put out there to cause you to buy it more. But the effectiveness is still the same between a generic and a brand new drug.
Can I give my perspective on this?
Yes, please.
So it's I can be calling a lot of words with a lot of syllables, but they mean simple things. So generic is, by the fact that it's on the market, it has gone through what we call bioequivalence testing. So in order for you to sell a generic form of a drug, it has to go through a test to show that it is as effective in the same formulation, even though it might be a different color, as the brand name. So the brand name and the differences between brand name and generic are so small. That
Let's bring it to light.
it-
Ibuprofen is found in Advil.
yes,
um,
in Motrin,
Motrin, same thing.
and is the same.
And I can give you even a better example. For example, Benadryl. There's Benadryl, the generic one, and Benadryl allergy. The brand, the cost and effect. One of them, there's like one is like 5 times more expensive than the other one.
right.
Yes.
And there's some other medications for coagulation, which I'm not going to mention any name. One can be $1.50, and the other one can be
Right.
$7 and something up. Like that's the difference. If your doctor
Yes,
don't know,
I mean,
I
The
think
Nexium.
Right. I think
Yeah.
in this setting, in our part of the world, why we need people to understand that generics and brand names work the same way and have the same potency is because we're limited in resources, and people always wonder why we don't have drugs. It's because people want all of the brand name drugs,
Which is
And
expensive.
which is very expensive, and it comes from parts of the world that it takes a while to get here.
Yes.
So I think we need to understand that we're in especially in resource limited settings, and we're not necessarily resource limited, but where resources are hard to come by. Like you can order something online and it takes a while to get there.
Right.
You need to understand that's where your doctors and your pharmacists come in to tell you which drugs are bioequivalent, because yes, ibuprofen is in Advil, ibuprofen is in Motrin, but then there's ibuprofen in a solubilized form in Advil.
and the liquid gels.
And
They're
that's the
different
liquid
that's
gels,
the different
right?
gels.
So then you need to understand that it's the same drug. It's just that it's in the brand name for Advil, the
Yeah.
liquid gel at
And-
least it's formulated
and
to depends on how you take it to act a little bit faster.
Yes.
You know.
And they're different branding. So, for example, there will be a Motrin PM and Motrin.
Right.
Like it's a bunch
Right.
of and they charge you a lot more for the two combination, the two medication. If you buy them separately and generic, you'll be surprised how much
And-
cheaper it'll be.
And let me
Yes.
explain why they charge you more. It's because
Yeah.
these companies they invest a lot of money and they develop these drugs. They pay pharmacists to develop these medications in labs and so on, and they have what is known as a patent. So if you invent something, you patent it, right? You say, okay, I came up with this information, don't steal my idea, and I'm making it. Now that patent lasts for 10 years, sometimes 5 years, it depends on the nature of the medication. When that patent expires, the formula for that drug is open to anybody to buy that formula and recreate that drug. That's how you get generic. So you have you have brand name medications, and some companies will fight to keep their patent alive, and some companies would reformulate and keep that patent going. And then there are branded generics that are very well formulated generics that work very well, right?
And then the cost of production for some medication.
Yes.
I'm gonna hasten up to say that sometimes people complain that the drug prices are high, but they have to realize that when we have to order from all the way from India, you have to pay for that transport to get it here. Yes, medications are duty free, but still the costs. I just got an email today from one of our suppliers, and they're saying, as a result, from out the UK, as a result of all the economic tariffs and stuff like that, the drug manufacturers has increased their prices to the distributor, and then we have to pass on that cost to the patient. So just giving you guys a heads up, by next year you're going to be asking why medication are expensive. But we all know the price of cheese down up to.
That's the last word for this segment. Rohan Claxton, Dr. Thompson, and Elisha Thompson. Is that correct? Elijah Thompson, Rohan Claxton, and Roshana Stanford. Roshana. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you for accommodating us, and we're looking forward to serving the public.
And maybe we can talk again before the next Pharmacy Week.
Yeah, well, we're open to you. Just extend the invitation. We'll be happy to come and join you.
Okay, thanks very much. We'll be back with our second segment right after this.
Save while you build? Now you can at Builder's Paradise. Yes, shoppers, build up your Value Club points at Builder's Paradise. That's right, Value Club members and shoppers, your favorite frequent buyer club is now available at the home of hardware and more. Whether you're laying tiles, painting walls, replacing doors, upgrading windows, or fixing up your home, every purchase at Builder's Paradise now earns you Value Club points. Enjoy exclusive benefits like discounts on thousands of items, special savings for seniors, instant deals, quarterly rebates, plus an extra up to 2% off every quarter. Shop more, save more, earn more, only at Builder's Paradise. Don't miss out. Start building your rewards today with Value Club at Builder's Paradise, because every bolt, board, and brush brings you closer to bigger, better savings. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to Vaughn Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis.
Back in the second segment of Thought That Get Results. First segment, our health segment. We hope that you learned something, appreciated it. The second segment, Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Webbo, I just want to extend greetings to all those who might be celebrating birthdays. My little neighbor, Faith, good evening, happy birthday to you. Webbo, I also want to say to those who might be hospitalized, speedy recovery. There are a number of persons that I visited over the past few days, especially from the Gingerland area. Some would have since been discharged. I hope that they're recovering nicely, and some are still at the hospital. I want to say, speedy recovery to you. Webbo, I want to single out one gentleman that got into an accident some time ago. I, really feel and pray and hope that, he would recover fully from the accident that happened somewhere in the Mat Bottom area about a week ago. Webbo, of course, this is a program that is interactive, and I encourage all those who are listening and viewing, to call in, make a suggestion, ask a questions. Of course, we can learn something from you, and you can learn something from us. Just before I wrap up with my opening, Webbo, I want to say a special good evening to all those who are listening in diaspora. I want to say a special good evening to Mrs. Nola Liebert, there in Canada, and her husband. Good evening, and I hope you will enjoy the show. Webbo, of course, this evening I'm looking forward, as per usual, for a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Good evening, Webbo. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here. It's a quite an interesting time here in our federation. The matters that are before people. I'd start by saying, yes, we just ushered in at least the test run of traffic speeding radar system and traffic to ticket people, rather, as it relates to speeding and all that sort of thing in St. Kitts. I understand there are some cameras here on Nevis as well, but I understand it's a test, a thing that the federal government has really put out RFP. That's a request for proposal back in April to implement traffic speeding in school zones, and in terms of creating a safer environment as it relates to traffic here in St. Kitts Nevis, because the number of fatalities we've been having is also a revenue booster as well. So it's something that's going to kill two birds with one stone, a traffic, in terms of a traffic system, because we've been having, like I said, a lot of fatalities here in the Federation. In addition to that, of course, the big issue here in this Federation is the SSC bill that was not necessarily the bill, but of course the bill that was passed, but just the idea of this new venture that's been promoted to roll out here in Nevis, attempt to roll out and implement. It has created a lot of consternation. It has created, a lot of blowback in the public, and that's something that's serious. The Premier has promoted it as a game changer, so it's become more consequential than ever in terms of the deliberation over this issue. Far afield, people are discussing it. In the diaspora, people are discussing it because it affects every life here in this in St. Kitts and Nevis. This zone is particularly focused on Nevis at the moment, the one that's being mentioned, and they're being discussed. So every Nevijan here on Nevis and every Nevijan around the diaspora, United States, wherever you are, London, it doesn't matter, Canada, everybody's engaged on this one. It seems on social media you see it, and it is it has created like I say, a lot of consternation and a lot of interest, and a lot of blowback.
Yes, Glendale, it has indeed, and one of the things from the inception, persons were asking for more information, and I think it was just last week, Thursday, if memory serves me right, that the Honorable Prime Minister and the Attorney General, had a town hall meeting on St. Kitts where persons, were welcome to hear the views and ask the questions, and I think that went pretty well. I want to believe that persons now have a better understanding, at least, of the framework, the legislation, and its intent, the spirit of it. And here on Nevis, the NIA led by Honorable Mark Brantley, they would have also put out something that they have in town hall meeting, if memory serves me right, on next week, the 27th, I think, which I think is next week. Wednesday might very well be next week.
It's Monday. I think it's Monday.
Monday. Okay, thank you very much. But I think it's the 27th. So there's a forum that persons can go, persons can hear, their views, ask questions, because whatever is to come or not to come, I think would have an effect on all of us. And I believe whatever is to come, once it would have a positive effect. You see, in life, there's always bad and good. And I for one, believe that once the good outweighs the bad, then I think that we would be in good stead. And I believe persons have legitimate questions, legitimate concerns, and I want to urge persons to go out, and, ask your questions, register your views. It's your right as an individual, as a resident. So I am really hoping that persons would go out and, just vent, and hopefully their concerns would be addressed.
Yeah, one of the things I hope that people do go out. Yes, I agree with you with that part. I hope that when the presenters who are presenting in that town hall, I hope whether it's 2-3 hours or whatever the amount of time it is, to give the people enough time to speak and to question. I don't want anybody attempt to run out the clock. Meaning, you have a 3 hour and you speak, and you present for 2 hours or 2 hours and 20 minutes and then say you have to close. So it's the people's business, and it's the people's right, and it's the people should have an opportunity to question every angle on this and bring their thoughts on it to the fore and to the public. And we've had a lot of explanations. The developers came on 2 Sundays ago, I think, and put out what they thought the people needed to hear, or what they thought they were going to be doing. And of course, the Premier and those who are commandeering this from a government standpoint has done their part in terms of extolling information and telling people what ought to be, what they think is going to be. So I think it's the People's Forum right now, and I hope that they're given a chance to really expound and ask the questions they need to ask. One of the things that I saw something that jumped out at me this week when I saw a video that was done over there at somewhere over in the southern area where I saw some relics being revealed in a video. A young man took the opportunity to do a video where he showed some relics I've never knew existed in that area, with ovens and where bakery was or something to that effect. That's how it was described. And it's hot springs and all that sort of thing out there. And I recognize from the Premier at some point when he said they rescinded or they did not gazetted the part of the bill that says 500 acres for Nevis minimum in terms of that could be sold for that sort of SSC development, and 715 Senkits. I think I would have heard him say that that was taken out of the bill, and the protection for somewhere along the line, I thought that came out, the protection for relics, old relics such as that. What do you call those historic sites? I think that may not have been in the gazetted bill, but I would like somebody to correct me on that. But from what I know, if that is the case, if that was taken out, because that's a relic that was found, and I would go out on a limb, 9 out of 10 persons on Nevis did not know that existed. I want to go that far out. The hot springs there, where the water over there compete with the hot springs there in Charlestown, and that to me is quite interesting. So I mean, there are so many things when you talk about a bill, not only the bill but at SSC and what the bill so-called caters for. That not only that, but beyond the bill, that you have to take into consideration when you in such a project.
I looked at the numbers. I drilled down on some of the numbers that they put out. I don't know if you looked at them in terms of jobs, job creations, and all that sort of thing. I found them to be quite astounding in terms of the numbers that they put out in terms of jobs creation, in the site over a 10-year period, and jobs of somewhere in 200,000, I think it's 200,000 or something, 220,000. I don't remember what the number was, 30,000. But the point is that in the 10th year, I think it was 10,900 jobs created, or something to that effect. But the larger point to all this is that I'm trying to get across is that you're going to have to get people to work. And I know, and in Nevis in particular, I don't think we graduate more than 250 students coming out of high school. And I don't know if we do. And in St. Kitts, I don't know if we get past 500-600. So that's a total of around, let's say 800. Let's cap it at 800. And if you're going to average out the amount of workers you need at 10 years, let's assume it's, I don't see how we're going to have to be importing workers or something. Whether it's from CARICOM or where we're importing from, and they're going to be living outside of the zone. And we're talking about, a lot of people, whether they come from St. Lucia, Grenada, wherever they come from to work, in CARICOM, I suppose, or whatever the numbers are. But the point is people are going to have to be imported here and to live amongst us, the locals, outside the zone.
But persons are
outside
coming in, on a yearly basis.
I think,
and are living amongst us and working amongst us.
I think the critical point is the numbers I'm speaking. And not just people coming here. That's a normal thing. I mean, this now we're talking about a blip, a bump in terms of the numbers that are coming in. And when you have that, they'll be living outside the zone amongst us here, and you have to make some adjustments and look towards the adjustments, what you're making in terms not just, of course, housing, that's one part of it. But, I kept saying and I say to people, you got to look at floor traffic, you got to look at feeder, creating new feeder roads. Yeah, what I'm saying, because you're up in the population. You have to look at, begin to look at hospital beds. You got to look at, we have 50 beds in the hospital right now. If you're going to bring in, thousands of people. We're talking about outside the zone. I'm not even talking about those inside. You talk about you're going to up your hospital bed, personnel, expansion hospital. You may probably, if over a 10-year period at the end of it, you may need another 100 beds. I mean, these are a lot of things to be considered. Water usage, is urban planning. You have to go into serious urban planning. And I don't know how many urban planners we have around, but not only that, you have to look at that. You have to look at your grid, your electrical grid, at some point in terms of expansion of the grid. There's so many areas you have to look into. Your quality of life issues, land use. You got to look, not only land use issues. You got to look at, you got to look at the real estate costs at some point. Because that would, of course, the laws of supply and demand would take hold at that point. Because, of course, if you now have a zone that you've occupied X amount of lands, I don't know if the folks in the zone would be able to buy lands outside and invest outside, which, you can't stop them. They're citizens if they become citizens. So, it's quite a lot to grab your hands around, and it's not a simple thing as on the face of it, how you look at it. It's a lot of, infrastructural planning and thinking it through. Because jumping in a 10-year period, that or whatever build out, that's a lot to consider. It's not this is not Mickey Mouse business.
I heard the Premier mention some time ago. Could have been between 7,000 to 10,000 persons, and I've heard a lot of persons speaking to that, but what my understanding of that is, as I would have said to other persons, is that he would have also said that there would be something like 3 hotels. I am not sure the capacity of the hotels, but I know he did say something to the effect that similar to Four Seasons. And as I said, my take on it is that when it is built out, and all 3 hotels are operational and at any one point we could have maybe those numbers, meaning if the 3 hotels are at capacity, along with those who might be living inside the zone. I really didn't look or ever even looked at it as, year in, year out, each day, 7 to 10,000 people living there. So I do not know if I get it correct, but that is my take on it.
Well, listen. Look, the expectation is about 7 to 10,000 people from what we gather, and of course these people are going to have to, if we do go through this, not the citizenship process in terms of the fees, bam, bam, bam. If they choose to become citizens, they can. That's the language of the Premier. The point that, but you brought on the 3 hotels, for example, like Four Seasons. Four Seasons employs north of 700 people. 3 hotels like Four Seasons, we're talking somewhere in the region employing somewhere in the 2,500 people in addition to what the Four Seasons employ, if that's the case. If you're talking hotels.
Hold
on a minute. You said and if time like Four Seasons, even if you had their downscale, we're talking. I'm trying to get. You're gonna have to bring. We don't produce enough people to work, so people are gonna have to come and work. And these are just facts. And more than likely, people who are going to come here and work would be coming from CARICOM regions for the most region. They are the closest, where they come as far as Grenada, where they come from as far as, Antigua, and people from Dominica, whatever the case, people will come. My point is, and the properties inside the zone, will not be cheap properties for the most part, because if you're lowering in millions or multi-millionaires, these are the people coming in from a lot of those sorts of people. Property values, the kind of properties they're going to have, the values are going to be high. Just the reality. From a person who's been in real estate over 30 years and as a broker, I can tell you that. So now, let's deal in some reality. If you're going to have 3 hotels, as you said, like the Four Seasons, then you're going to have to start imagining somewhere employing people in north of 2,000, 3,000 persons just to facilitate the hotels. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to bring people in, because we don't have that in Nevis with our 14,000 people, and St. Kitts with our 38,000 people. And I just gave you the numbers in terms of graduates per year. Now, there are other areas, not just hotels, that portends if you're going to run some municipality, which is the zone, going to have its own municipality, meaning its own, if you have your own water systems and your own systems, electricity, it's a municipality. You have to run with a mini government. You have to execute. Well, if you have a water facility, you're producing your own water, you have to pay for your own water. If you're producing your own electricity, you have to have your own engineering systems, your own systems. You have to be able to, somebody has to pay a level of tax into that in order to keep the upkeeps of these things, your own infrastructure and roads and all. This is just the reality of how things work. Now, you're going to need workers. Let's strip away this thing and be realistic about it. You need workers. And therefore, we're going to bring, if you're giving them from CARICOM, and people who come in, will not be necessarily living in that zone, meaning mm-hmm. people from around the region or whomever, they'll live outside here with us, mm-hmm. outside the zone. And that's just how it works. And if they're living here, outside here with us, those numbers, you have to accommodate them as well.
Let me ask a question, Glendale. Mm-hmm. So you would have said many things. Would you like to see that investment?
Would I like to see the investment?
That particular investment.
Frankly, to be frank with you, I just think the footprint is too big in terms of the land space. So hold me up, please. Okay. Frankly, I just think the footprint of it is too big. So if you ask me if I would like to see it, I'd like to see an investment, but I think the footprint is enormous based on our size, and I liken it to, I don't know how much you know about this, but the Honduras one, in which was Prospero, which I've always spoken about, the same sort of ilk of folks. It is 1,000 square miles. It was 1,000 acres. Honduras, and I always say Honduras is 10 times bigger than Jamaica. Jamaica is 4,400 square miles, roughly, 4,300. Honduras is 44,000 square miles. And they were, Prospero was done in a place called Rockerton, I think it is, which is 1,000 acres of land. We're talking in north of 2.5 times that 2,400 based on what the Premier said and whomever said. And with a small land space, I just think, so I'm not in agreement with that part of it, frankly, to be honest with you. I just don't see it as practical, you know. And then what the requirements, the underpinning to run a municipality, because you would have to run in some sort of municipality inside a zone, meaning, you know, your infrastructure, you're building your own roads, you got to have the, you know, the capacity to do that, the engineering, the people, and you have to be able to pay for it, and it's running like a mini sort of a city, an urban center within it. That's just the reality how this thing works. We're not getting away from that and playing games. It's not Mickey Mouse business, I keep saying it. And if you're thinking that way, then you have to be, there are other practicalities you have to look into, meaning you know, your employees, where you get your employees from, where they're going to come from to support that zone, where they're going to live. Frankly, they will probably more than likely live where properties might be cheaper, where is outside the zone for the most part.
So if you were to propose a downscale, what size you would propose?
I'm not in the
no, I'm just asking. I'm
not in the business.
I'm just asking, as you would have said earlier, that you are versed in certain things, and you know, I'm eager to learn.
Okay, listen. Frankly, if you're doing a zone like this, listen. The Four Seasons, you refer to the Four Seasons project, which is about 400 acres of land, correct? And that, okay, fine. If they went and they had a 500 acre land, okay, that's palatable. You know, that's palatable. But when you start, it's palatable from a standpoint of footprint. And I think I told you I wasn't in favor because of footprint for starters. And then, of course, there are the ancillary areas why I'm not again, why I will not be possibly for it. But, you know, other areas I can add to it. But the footprint, I think, is, you know, it's still, you know, is just a little bit beyond our reach. It marginalizes, I think the potential to marginalize the rest of us is huge. Marginalize, when I say the rest of us, I mean us here who not only grew up here, but who, you know, our ancestral home has been here. And those who are coming behind us, I think they will have a difficulty. And one of the things you got to bear in mind, Roger, what tends to happen as a crowd out, and you, you know, like you heard me say land use, I referred to land use earlier when I say, right, what tends to happen is you have a spike in prices because of supply and demand. And if people do know who are in the zone, invest outside of the zone, they say, I'm going to buy a piece of property at Golden Rock. I'm just find an area and develop areas. Mm-hmm. Because the idea of prosper or destiny is just a concept, you know. You can buy anywhere. You don't have to stay in the southern area of the country. You're under the concept, you're not locked in. So if you're traveling from wherever in the world, you're traveling and you're traveling to destiny. You're traveling to news, but it's destiny you're marketing. If you're traveling from London to Prosper in Honduras, you may go to Rockerton, another place, but you're going to Prosper. It becomes like their own little, like I use the word municipality. Municipality is their own space. So it's a concept they're building, you understand? And you can have it anywhere, dotted anywhere.
So you force the airports and stuff like
that? I don't know what I just think. I mean, it's in the zone.
Yeah.
Within the zone. Mm-hmm. I think that's quite possible. I think that if you can lease the seabed, you can have a seabed lease, which goes out 12 miles, which is a nation. All countries, I think, have their seabed. They're responsible 12 miles out. So St. Kitts is responsible 12 miles.
Before you reach international waters.
Correct. Antigua, everybody else. So they can lease the seabed 12 miles out with. Well, no, I just said it's a municipality, or just almost like a sovereignty, or whatever the case is. It's a concept, and you say you're traveling. Like I could say, I'm traveling to Jamaica. I could travel. You're traveling to prosper. You're traveling to destiny. But that's how they're marketed. It would be marketed within Nevis. It's fascinating. It's a concept.
If you're going to Florida, for example,
yeah, so
you might be going to Fort Lauderdale, you might be going to Orlando,
Right.
but the point is you're going to Florida.
Right, you're going to Florida. Now, the idea, the idea when you're when you're marketed, you ask me a question if they will have the airports. I do not know. You ask me if I foresee it.
Yes.
Is this possible? I don't know. It is. I don't think the bill spoke towards airport necessarily. I know it spoke towards seabed lease at somewhere in there. You understand? So again.
So is that unique? Is that unique seabed lease? Is it a unique? Is other entities in St. Kitts Nevis as seabed lease?
There are not entities in the St. Kitts Nevis as seabed lease. Christopher Harbour, the other ones there, Tamarind Cove and a few others. I think has seabed.
So what the difference would be?
Yeah, I'm just explaining to you why it becomes a municipality.
And I'm trying to learn.
No, I'm trying to explain to you, please. I don't want to be competitive. It's not necessary to me. It's not important. I'm just trying to explain to you that Tamarind Cove has a seabed lease. Christopher Harbour has a seabed lease, and it's embodied in St. Kitts, of course. Now, let's say Destiny would have its seabed lease, right, to support its whatever it's doing. All right, I'm just merely. You ask me about airport. They would have their own seabed lease that goes 12 miles out. You understand? And I don't know how that would be commandeered in terms of that in the customs and how all that would work. I don't know how the bill speaks to that. I didn't see, I don't know how that has to be negotiated. I think the bill speaks to that has to be negotiated out, these things. All right? It did not specify and speak targeted those things and say, well, customs will be here, whatever. I suspect that, but again, I think it's supposed to be a tax-free zone again. So, I don't know. A lot needs to be, like I say, it's not making more business, a lot needs to be flushed out, right? And as to where we go with this, or if it's a tax-free zone, and then there's so much to work through. I mean, can citizens who, like me, going to the zone, I probably can't afford to go into the zone, but the point is I live. But if citizens going to the zone, I'm going into the tax-free zone to live, to escape taxes. Again, listen. Because whatever, I don't know. So a lot has to come out. That, of course, the discussionary part of it, I guess next week, Monday, is it the 26th?
27th, I think.
27th, yeah. I suspect some of these questions will come. But the mechanics of how this works, a lot has to be flushed out. And it's concerning. So I can't be glad-handed and say, why for the zone, and I don't know the mechanics of the zone. It makes no sense. You understand how it affects people and the populace, the larger populace, how it affects, I mean, it has so much, to me, it has so much bite into our way of life, in terms of our way of life, living. And we ought to be concerned about it, and we ought to be drilling down deep. I began to go down, attempt to go in certain directions here to show this is serious business.
Of course, I think that it is serious business, and that is one of the reasons why I believe also that the federal government would have had a town hall meeting last week, and that is also one of the reasons why I believe the NIA would now be having a town hall meeting. And you would have mentioned, quite a mouthful, and I know that they are listening, and if they are not listening, they would probably hear. And some of these very concerns, no doubt, would come to the fore and be trashed out, and people would be better able to get it, quote unquote, from the horse's mouth, and be in a better position to be more informed, and those who are undecided, would be better able to come to a decision. But I don't know if I don't think we could fully exhaust this topic anyway. But I don't know I know earlier you would have spoke to the ticketing issue and stuff like that, the cameras. I don't know if we can probably divulge into that.
Well, we can, but we don't know much about it. Except for you see the cameras, and the public don't know much more. I've seen people ask questions about who is behind it, and and all that sort of thing. I don't know anything about these things. I mean,
not necessarily who's behind it, but I think I would have read somewhere that the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force would have put out something, might have been a day or two ago, that some 113 persons would have, ticketed, and they would have squashed all 113 tickets as of up to the 20th, which I think was yesterday. And then thereafter, as of 12 a.m. this morning onwards, anyone that caught speeding, their ticket would stand.
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo. I just want to let you guys know the difference between the seabed leases is that they didn't have to make a law for those before.
They
didn't have to make a lot. The difference between the civil lease, like Christopher Harbour and the one there, Tamarind Cove, for example, they didn't have to make a lot. That's what the gentleman is saying. I think he's speaking to you, Roger.
Yeah, I'm hearing your caller, but the legislation is a framework for a particular zone and not necessarily a particular part of the island, meaning that, from what I understand, that once a developer or investor comes and they show proof that they have the particular lands in a particular area and they want that particular area to be deemed a special SSZ zone, of course they would have to bring the proposal, and once it's accepted and stuff like that. So I am not quite sure if I fully understand your caller. From what I understand for the legislation, it is just a framework. Meaning,
it's a framework it's a framework that's gazetted, means become law, and
yes,
it's the guide really. So destiny, like I told you, is a concept that can be done. They can put it here. They can be here. My understanding is in the south area, and then you could go to Newcastle and buy some lands, and you could be part of it can be destiny as well, from what I understand it. But as it relates to the seabed lease, destiny would have had a seabed lease. No, I don't know if they can multiply that seabed lease in another area in Nevis, but I know they can. The one in the south, for example, they can have, and maybe they can have another one. I don't know. If they have bought some place, land in Newcastle or wherever. They would have to. These people would have to explain these things. I mean, when I say these people, the people who run our government, and who are at the, the spear, the point of the spear here in these discussions.
But I want to believe if they, let's say they decide to have, let me just use this terminology, allow me to use this terminology, and another outlet, let's say in Newcastle, I would want to believe that they would have to apply.
Well, I don't know if they'd have to, I don't know maybe, but again, it's a concept, understand, it's a destination. It's like I can name it Rogerville, and that's a destination in Honduras. Is a destination prosper. It was done in one place, and they expanded to another place, and that sort of thing. So people around the world of their ilk, or who wants to come to their place, so they did a lot of research and all the sort of biomedical research on us, which could not be passed by the FDA in the United States and practice. So they would go overseas and do these things unless they prosper. Destiny would be, these things can be done there. The point is, you can travel from Los Angeles, or you can travel from London, and you go there to prosper. Same thing, you'll be able to go to destiny to do whatever they are doing in that zone.
Within the limits of the Constitution, the laws of St. Kitts Nevis, of course.
Again, the Constitution cedes certain rights based on the gazetted period, what they gazetted. They have already now voted and gazetted a document which becomes law. No, that would be challenged. That might be challenged. The constitutionality of it might be challenged. That's a separate issue. No, if that is challenged, and if that is challenged in the courts, it begin to be challenged in the courts, you'll put the brakes on this 1, 2, 3. How? Because the minute you challenge something in the court through what is called a public case, it's called it'll come back to me in a minute. But the minute you challenge something in the court, what it does basically is put the brakes on it immediately. Judicial review. The minute you challenge it under the act of judicial review, it put the brakes on it until even if you appeal it and it gets to a higher court, the Caribbean court, and if it goes to the Privy Council, it puts the brakes there for that period of time. You cannot execute the plan because remember it's under review now by litigants, and so that's a separate issue. And that puts if that happens, this is put aside in terms of plans and execution for at least maybe say 2 years to work through the court system all the way up. So I mean, we're in some interesting times. I think this need a lot of deliberation, in my opinion. It needs it's a lot to ponder, a lot to think about, especially in terms, like I said, urban development here in Nevis, in terms of the outside of the zone, what's going to happen, infrastructure. In terms of the road, like I said, we have traffic jams with 13,000 people as it is, local people outside. If you add the workers are coming in and people who are living amongst us and all that stuff, you got to talk about the road network. You got to talk about in terms of stressing, alleviating stress, traffic stress. You got to talk about pollution issues. You got to start thinking that kind of way. You got to talk about land use issues. You got to talk about green areas. How you're gonna, how you're gonna work these things through. You got to go where you're gonna have to allocate proper lands or whatever. Begin to start thinking, affordable areas. You got to start thinking about expanding your hospital, expanding, from 50 beds to maybe 100 additional 100. You got to start about personnel for that. You got to start. It's a lot and in a short space of time, it's a lot to think through and to work through. And you have to have good urban planners. You have to have good, city planners and urban planners, people in place for that sort of thing, who knows how to take the place in that direction. Policy, then there's policy to tax policy and that sort of thing. You got to begin to look at. In terms, because you're going to have to exact taxes on certain levies and for certain things and from certain people to buttress the economy, in addition to what you might be receiving from elsewhere. It's a lot to consider and work through. It's not a simple thing. As you present your grid, like I talk about the electrical grid, you got to start thinking about buying new engines. You can produce 10 megawatts or 30, whatever the amount is right now. We use 11 megawatts of power with the engines we got there, on a rolling system. We probably have to up, consumption. It's not simple.
Right. I understand, but do you think that the persons, the government that we have now, don't you think that all that you would have said that they have those in mind and would be putting those afoot going forward?
I don't know. If I think they have these things in mind, I never heard any of these things being discussed yet. These are things you ought to put in front of the public.
Okay, let me get this. Okay, I'm very sorry, caller. You can please call back. Go ahead, Glendale.
Yeah, these are things you have to put before the public. You're responsible. You have to be responsible. Now you have to thinking around thinking around the curb now. You understand? Your water supply everywhere in the Caribbean, Trinidad all the way to Antigua, they have water issues because they built out too fast. I think it's another example. They built out too fast and not anticipating, not planning well, not doing urban planning well. The point what I'm making to you is when you're doing at this pace of what we're talking about in terms of the kind of workers we need and the demand for that and the influx of people, it's dropping you like a bomb. Have you planned out? Then you start having water issues. Water usage. These are real things to ponder. And I'm saying to you, you can be pie in the sky all you want, but let's get realistic on the ground in terms of working through these things, right? Do you have the capacity? Do you have to start planning the capacity to create the capacity for water, and upping it by how many thousands of gallons you need? to offset this. If I drop another 1,000 people in Nevis tonight, tomorrow morning, you know how that is affected. Alone, 1,000 ordinary people from CARICOM in Nevis. You can't supply you have water problems. Immediately. 1,000. Because the usage. I'm saying to you, I mean, you kind of back a hand. We kind of back of the hand and, you know, and throw around stuff lightly, but, you know, it takes a lot of deep consideration and serious. Because the backlash is if you can't get water, you start to cost the government. You know?
You can't get anything.
You can't get electricity. You see what I'm saying? You can't get services. Your garbage collection service. 1,000 people I drop in next 3 months. Your garbage collection service is out of whack. You cannot commandeer it. It's 1,000.
I'm hearing you.
Let me just take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, sir. Can I join for a minute?
Yes, you're on the air. Could you go ahead?
I'm calling from Belize.
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I hear you, sir. The gentleman there, is there anything positive that he can say that can make this project work? Everything I hear him saying is total negative. Nothing positive about this that can make this program work. All these excuses, etc. Can't we walk around them so that prosperity and progress can come to the island or the country?
Yes, subcaller. I can think of one thing for starters. Like I said, scale it down. For starters, from 2,400, you know, the footprint is too big. I said it already. We just don't have land area 36 square miles in this little place. Hello?
Well, then you use what you have. If you don't want a project and you are so against the project, send it to Belize. We'll do well with it. Or send it somewhere else in the Caribbean.
Well, you're pretty close to you're pretty close to
you're pretty close to
Honduras.
I appreciate it.
Listen to me, please, sir. You're pretty close to Honduras, which is next door. Are you hearing me, sir?
What?
Listen to, please.
You know what you said, sir?
I said you're pretty close to Honduras, which is next door to where you are. And currently you have one there, it's called Prosper. You can ask them to come next door to Belize. And I think they're leaving Honduras, or the government has escorted them out.
But you also try to work and let development and progress come to the island. Let it come to the country. This project, what is so bad about it? Everything, you just complain about every single thing. Why the possibility of this program can never work in Nevis? Why? Is it political? It is pure political mischief.
Do you
blue and green thing? Let us put that aside and let us think about the development of black people, man, and people in our little part of the world. Nevis is a beautiful and pretty place. It can even get better with this kind of project. You are worrying about how many jobs it will bring, that we have to bring people from outside to come to work. So what is wrong with that? You nearly sound like Donald Trump just now. You know how many people come from neighboring Honduras and Mexico and Guatemala to work in Belize, especially in our agricultural area? When it comes to bananas and oranges and fruits, etc. What's wrong? And when the season is done, they go back home.
Sir?
And if they so choose to live and abide by our law, they say,
Sir?
and we try to accommodate them legally.
So, to the gentleman, economies are run by scale. Economies are scale. And I would imagine people can go to Honduras to Belize to work on the agriculture and go back. I don't know if they have a CARICOM pack like we do, where people come here and they can stay and they can live. I don't know if they have that sort. Hello, please.
We have just
Caller, this is what we're going to do. Mr. Herbert, Mr. Glendale is responding to you. Allow him to respond, and then I can let...
Yes, sir. No problem, sir. No problem.
Back to you. You were talking about people come work and leave, and they obey your laws. In this country, we are signed on to CARICOM, and amongst... We're part of the OACS and CARICOM. And folks that come here from our region, they can stay here. And once they are working, and they can stay on and all that sort of thing. Now, you're talking about the leaving part. There are a number of things we have to consider when you're doing this sort of projects like this. You just don't have a project swoon down on you and just come down and you boom. And you have to, there are a lot of things to consider, sir. Based on your availabilities, hold on, sir. Based on what you have available.
I agree.
Well, you made some statements, and you said one is being negative, one, of course, is being conscious, and one is being quite assertive as to the ills that can come from this. And there are the positive that can come from this. To me, in my mind, outweigh the ills outweigh the positives from where I sit, because I think the footprint is too big. The land space is too big in 36 square miles. At 2,400, that to me is egregious.
Okay, caller, go ahead.
In Belize, we are also tied to CARICOM. So all the countries in CARICOM, we have just signed a free movement of people with two other CARICOM countries about 2 or 3 weeks ago, which would be Barbados and St. Vincent, that they can come here and work here and do what they, as we Belizeans can do, and we can go to Barbados and St. Vincent and do the same thing they do when they come here. So we have that kind of association with CARICOM, but remember at the same time, we are bordered by Guatemala and Mexico and Honduras, all of them.
Okay, caller, I got you. We're just about run out of time, and we appreciate your calling.
Okay, so thank you, and try to make it work, man. Try to make it work. Try bring prosperity to the people of
So before you go quickly, caller, let me just inform the public. Belize have a population of about 422,000 people.
Yeah, about
1 second. 1 second, sir. Let me finish. Nevis has a population maybe 14,000 people. Belize is a massive country compared to what Nevis is. Please appreciate what we're trying to say to you. And if we, the concerns that we're speaking of are concerns that are on the minds of the people, and it will affect the people. So, I mean, but Belize can absorb 50,000 people.
Okay, we gotta leave it there. Okay?
I was going to ask one more question.
No, we gotta leave it there. We appreciate your call. We're out of time. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good night. You're a beautiful people.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Who's got the last word?
Yeah, Webbo, this discussion on the SSD, continues to be interesting, and I'm really happy that we have a forum that we could, speak about it, and persons could, give their input. And I encourage persons to go out on the 27th to the NIA Town Hall meeting to get more information on the said SSD.
Webbo, it's a pleasure, as always, to speak to the public, and this creates a great avenue, and for people to be informed, and that's what we're here for.
That's the last word. This program repeats at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Ma Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Ma. Join Keith Scarborough at 8 o'clock on Thursday evening for Government at Work, a place where you can spend all of your evenings right here on the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
The views and opinions expressed in the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of